Hello, good morning. Today we're going to discuss data collection and presentation. So for this course outcome, compute the probability distribution of a random variable for both discrete and continuous data, apply statistical methods in the analysis of data, and design experiments involving several factors. So before we can do any of this, we must first consider how data is gathered, collected, and presented in order for us to analyze it statistically. The intended learning outcomes for today's lesson are 1. The students must be able to differentiate the different sources of data. 2. The students must be able to identify the different ways of gathering data. 3. The students must apply the suited interview, observation, or experiment based on its advantages and disadvantages. Next, the student must be able to differentiate the various sampling techniques. And finally, the student must be able to plan a data gathering strategy for a specific research problem and propose a method of gathering data from the research problem. In today's data-driven world, every decision that you are going to do must be bounded by data. Data are facts and statistics collected together for analysis. This data may be considered to be qualitative or quantitative. Qualitative data refers to the data uh, that is used for description without measurement. Examples of this would be students' attitude towards school, colors, um, attitudes towards exam cheating, friendliness of students to teachers. For quantitative data, these are some of the numerical data that we have. These are the data that is expressed in numbers and summarized using statistics to give meaningful information. Examples would be heights, weight, ages of students. The data um, is comprised of geographical, cultural, scientific, financial, statistical, meteorological, natural, and transport systems. For example, in the transport system, we can have some qualitative information or qualitative data like the type of cars. It can be SUV, it can be sedan, it can be a bus, it can be a train, a bike, or whatsoever. Under the transport system, we can also have some numeric information like the speed these cars are traveling, the amount of passengers it can handle. Same is true with the other fields. You can have qualitative and quantitative data as well. Let's now have obtaining data. How do you plan on getting your data? There are basically two ways. You can gather it yourself, or you can get it from a professional who do the data collection professionally. Let's have the primary source of data. Why take data yourself? So this is when the data is obtained directly from the individuals, objects, or processes. The advantage is tailored fit, meaning you have the data as you need it. You have all the prescribed information that you want. It is reliable because you control how the data is collected and the resources is allocated for the data gathering purposes. And then you have all the rights and privileges regarding the data that you're going to acquire. Now, for the disadvantages, it would be costly and it will require more time to gather this. Now, another way of gathering data would be from secondary sources of data, meaning from professionals. On this form, you're going to get it from a database of a company, from a database of an organization, or from the database of the government. Right now, on COVID cases, Department of Health is summarizing the data that they are gathering and posting it in the DOH website. NSO, National Statistics Office, Philippine Statistics Office, are also doing their task in collecting data, and it would be accessible once you uh, request for it. So, secondary sources of data happens when the data is collected by another researcher or agency that initially gathered to make it available. So, the advantage would be saving time and money and um, relative ease of access. Now, the major disadvantage would be the advantages for the primary source of data. So, meaning the data might be incomplete and you cannot verify because you're not the one who gathered the data. The documentation may be also incomplete because you don't know where the data really, or you don't know the data collection process. Let's have the methods of collecting data. So there are generally three ways of collecting data. A survey is a data collection method where you select a sample of respondents from a large population in order to gather information about that population. The process of identifying individuals from the population who you will be interviewing is called as sampling. Now, there are different ways of collecting data. It can be via interview, so meaning you're going to extract the information from the respondents, or you can have observation. This is a less interactive way. You're just going to observe. You're not going to have an interaction with the respondent. You're just going to watch them do the the process. While experimentation is a more proactive way wherein you're going to provide treatment um, to your samples or to your subjects.